Hey students, we are moving into your informative speeches. I'm going to briefly discuss this chapter through the PowerPoint. I'm going to actually break it into two videos that you have to watch just to make it easier for me to upload, but I also have obviously experienced your dilemmas when you are having trouble uploading speeches. So I am right there with you. It is not the easiest platform to do this with. So I apologize. I'm going to get this up rather quickly. It will be two videos, hopefully really like 7 or 10-minute chunks each, making it much easier for me to export and upload to Leo. All right, so not this week, but next week, your informative speeches will be due. So we have to really kind of understand what these informative speeches are. I want you to know how to use the formula. It is very important that you are organized in these speeches. So let's continue. All right, so the key concepts we're going to cover in this chapter are, informative speeches. What do? They provide basic facts. Sometimes you're really introducing a new idea to your audience. Let me inform you about this. They are communicating new information, encouraging potentially a new perspective. So if your audience does know something about your topic, you may want them to see it from a different perspective. As an informative speaker, you need to make sure that you have well-researched, well-organized speeches, and you have to understand what your goal is. Your goal of this speech is to inform your audience. A persuasive speech is very different. Although you may use the formula in your persuasive speeches, you will set them up a little differently if your goal is to persuade your audience versus just to present neutral almost information. That being said, as speakers, the very fact that we're speaking on a topic tends to mean that we have a perspective on it, and that perspective does come across in our speeches. So although we don't intend these to persuasive, there always is a little bit of element of persuasion, positive or negative feelings around a topic that we just automatically, by just speaking about it, bring to the table. So, informative speaking goals, presenting new information. This is so much fun. When your audience knows nothing about your topic, you get to be the one that presents them with the new information. And you can provide a new perspective on information that your audience does know something about. And you often have to be aware of generating positive and negative feelings about your topic. So, for example, I knew nothing about this race called the Tough Mudder. My student, maybe it's an obstacle course. A student decade ago at this point, presented a whole speech on this Tough Mudder. Now, if I had seen it in any other fashion, if I was, driving my car and saw a billboard about the Tough Mudder, I would have one perspective of it. But the fact that this student presented it, he presented it in a positive way. He presented it as, something interesting to do and something that's fun. So now my perception of a Tough Mudder, which I would have really no reason to know anything about it because it's not really my cup of tea. And if I had heard about it in any other way, I may have negative feelings about it, but because this student presented it and presented it so well, I'm informed about it. Now, am I an expert? No, not even a chance. Would I participate? No. He wasn't persuading me to join a Tough Mudder. He was informing me of what a Tough Mudder was. So it's, do I understand that it's a positive experience for a lot of people that do it and they do it as teams and friends? I get it. So this was a new concept that was presented in a positive way by a student, very organized, and now I have some understanding of what it is. Now, if there was a speech on maybe on a topic that I already know something about, or maybe my next speech on a Tough Mudder, I already now have a little bit of base knowledge on the Tough Mudder, which is an obstacle course that young people do, and maybe old people do too, but not people like myself. But now the next speech on it, it could be a new perspective. Maybe somebody might present something on the injuries that occur on the Tough Mudder, which might make me see it in a different light. I don't know if people are injured doing these obstacle courses. I would assume, but maybe, the element of risk is something that I don't understand. And maybe that could be another presentation that I listen to, which would provide a new perspective for me on it. Do we understand? So new information or a new perspective, positive or negative feelings. So now going on to providing new information. You want your information, if you are the first in time with presenting some new idea to your audience, you want to make sure you are very organized. You want to make sure you have very reliable sources that you are citing so that your audience, when they leave, is armed with that information that they could call upon later when they want to know more information. You want it to be well structured. And with these informative speeches, I can tell you the best structure to lay them out, especially to make it easy, is to write out the formula. Your introduction, your body, your conclusion. What are the three things that an introduction is supposed to do? What are your three main points, and how are you supporting those points with subpoints and data and information? And then your conclusion. And what is a conclusion supposed to do? Boom, boom, boom. Do the three things. Review your main points. Activate your audience. Make sure that you are closing in conclusion. So lay out your formula, write it in. It makes it very well organized, and it makes it very easy to present. You can get through this speech very easily that way. I don't want you to pick a topic that you know nothing about. You are an expert. You are presenting to us this information. So pick topics. Do not work too hard. I want you to always work smarter, not harder. I want you to choose topics that you know something about, because then you know where to find the information. You know the reliable sources. So please, if you know nothing about the solar eclipse that's happening on April 8th, this is not the time to start researching that. Please choose topics that you know about, because you already have the research there, and then present it to us. Inform us. We may not know about it, but choose topics that you know about. Providing a new perspective, you want to frame new content to give a new context to the information. You want to organize your facts in an engaging way and make your speech memorable, so people can obviously see things from a new perspective. So although, using the Tough Mudder example, although I have a base knowledge and the Tough Mudder seems really fun, I may not know the liability behind it. I may not know the injury reports. So make sure you are presenting it, connect it to my previous base knowledge of the topic, but make sure you make a clear understanding that I want you to look at it from a different perspective. Look at it from the kid that, broke his ankle during the Tough Mudder. Definitely a different perspective. When generating emotion, positive or negative, towards your topic, you want to make sure you tie the speech into pre-existing attitudes. You want to organize around a central theme, and you want to use positive or negatively charged terminology. So make sure you understand your word choice really matters when you are crafting this speech. We talked about delivery, but now this is in composing your speech. You have to make sure you understand that some words have a positive connotation connected to them and some have a negative connotation connected to them. So for example, even using the word cheap versus thrifty. Cheap is a negative term. Oh, you're so cheap. You always buy my Christmas presents at Target. Versus, oh, you're so thrifty. You always buy my Christmas presents at Target. Thrifty has a positive connotation to it, cheap, even though they really mean the same thing. Make sure you're using terminology that coincides with the emotion you're trying to present. Going through positive and negative synonyms. Make sure you have an informative goal. So you want to make sure you, if you want to create a memorable, different perspective, you have a shock value to create concern. Use neutral attitudes when you're skeptical about ideas. Address resistance right up front. And when we're talking even about persuasive speeches, you want to address resistance. If you do not talk about like counter arguments or counter perspectives, it makes your audience think that you don't know them and you don't understand them. So please make sure you are also always aware and addressing counter arguments to your perspective. So, if you are the person that's presenting the Tough Mudder as this wonderful thing to do, say, even address, the Tough Mudder, there may be injuries. People may suffer cuts and bruises and potentially broken arms, but that doesn't detract from the fun, camaraderie, and great event that the Tough Mudder is. Make sure you recognize those negative attitudes or the resistance to your perspective that you're trying to present. All right, we are at slide 9. I believe there are 17 slides. So I'm going to stop here and we're going to come right back at the responsibilities of the speaker.